Welcome to Editorial U, a compilation of information and resources on writing and editing for educational publishing. My name is Kim Kleeman, and I'm the president of Upgrade Education. We've assembled industry experts to lead you through the ins and outs of the learning curve for educational publishing. Free resources for this e-lecture, as well as products for students, educators, parents, and more, are available at our website at www.upgradeeducation.com.
Whether you're interested in becoming a freelance writer or an in-house editor, it's important for you to know the basics of an educational publishing project. You'll want to know what to expect and when to expect it, as well as the various pieces and parts that make up the typical project. We'll talk today about a benchmark schedule for an educational publishing product and discuss the various duties of a writer and editor along the way. Let's get to know the publishing process for a basal publisher. A basal publisher is a company that produces textbooks. Now, you're probably quite familiar with the textbook, since many teachers use the textbook in their classrooms. Creating a textbook involves marketing, editorial, design, production, manufacturing, and distribution departments, to name a few. It's a complicated process to create a textbook, but one that leads to substantial revenue for the publishing company. Let's start with phase 1 of the publishing process. This phase usually starts about 18 to 24 months before the shipment date of the textbooks to the depositories. This is called the end date, and a publisher keeps this end date in mind and builds their schedule backwards from this date. During this phase, the publisher is busy conducting research to answer the following questions. What are the new trends in education? What is the competition doing? How much money can we expect to make? How much can we spend on the development of the student editions, teacher editions, and ancillaries, or other products that accompany the textbook? Phase 2 usually begins about 14 to 18 months before the shipment date. For the purposes of our example, let's say that's in July. This is when the scope and sequence chart is developed. A scope and sequence chart is the educational layout of a textbook. It tells you the content and all the skills that will be covered in the textbook. You will become quite familiar with the scope and sequence if you work on a project as an editor or writer. Many factors go into the development of the scope and sequence chart. They include national and major state standards, or the educational objectives, the competition's product, educator feedback and feedback from political, national, and/or state contacts. Unless there is final approval of the scope and sequence chart before the major editorial work begins, you can expect it to change and change again. That's why it's important to remain flexible while working on an educational publishing project. So that way you can adapt to any new change that may come your way. Make sure to visit our website for a sample scope and sequence chart. Phase 3 occurs about 12 to 14 months before the shipment date. In our example, that would be August. This is when the prototype is developed. A prototype is a layout of the sample chapter in a textbook. It's extremely confidential. You may not be privy to the prototype unless you're an in-house employee or a trusted consultant. The prototype gives you the look and the feel of the textbook. It shows you the overall voice that will appear in the final product. Several factors go into developing the prototype. They include: the publisher approves the instructional and graphic design elements. They have writers write the prototype and designers design and create layouts. The publisher then identifies the product's special features. The designers discuss cover concepts. The publisher may begin to seek approval to use permission text, or text that has been previously published by someone else. You would find permission pieces in a literature textbook, for example. Phase 4 begins about a year before the shipment date. That would be September in our model. During Phase 4, the publisher decides who they are going to get to help them produce all of the content that goes into a textbook. They may seek out a development company. A development company specializes in writing, editing, and sometimes designing and producing the manuscript. Several other aspects are part of this phase. They include: the publisher develops initial production schedules, or when manuscript has to be ready to go to layout stages. The publisher revises and distributes the confidential prototype to developers. The publisher sends the prototype to advisors, authors, parent groups, sales managers, marketing managers, etc. These people will deliver crucial feedback that will affect the outcome of the product. The publisher develops guidelines for the writers. Focus testing continues to gather more feedback. Phase 5 usually begins about 10 to 11 months before the shipment date. That would be October in our example. The development company has been busy putting together customized teams of experts, writers, and editors to work on the project. The publisher has been working hard to put together all of the project guidelines and documentation. By this time in the process, the prototype is probably outdated. With all the feedback coming in, there are probably many annotations. That's why it's important to rely on all the documentation provided to you by the publisher. You don't want to just mimic the prototype when you're producing your content. This is also the point in which the guidelines would be distributed. The guidelines are very important for your work as a writer or an editor. They tell you everything from the marketing goals of the textbook to the specific format of the textbook. Visit our website to see a few sample pages from a project's guidelines. Besides the prototype and the guidelines, there are a few other documents you will need to complete your tasks. They include a TOC, or table of contents, a book map, a chart that shows you every page number in the book, a scope and sequence chart, a template for your writing. It will have the formatting and style already set, a list of the educational state or national standards you may have to include in your manuscript, a style guide that will show you all the publisher's preferences regarding punctuation, capitalization, and grammar. Writers at this stage complete manuscript and send it to the editor for approval. The editor may send it back to the writer, especially if revisions are needed. The editor otherwise checks the manuscript for a number of factors, including that it's pedagogically sound, that it's written to grade level, that it's appropriate for the school market, and that it's free of all grammar errors. The editor will then send manuscript to the production team. The production team will pour the pages. Pouring the pages involves putting the text into the design layout. The textbook will start to look like its final form, but there is still a long way to go before it's ready for print. Phase 6 occurs about 8 to 9 months before the shipment date. By this point, the production team has poured several pages. These are called first pages. First pages are then sent to the editors for approval. Editors check the manuscript again for accuracy and consistency. They also make sure it fits in the design layout. In other words, if there were too many words for a page, these words would spill over to the next page. That means copy fitting would have to be done, or actually cutting the text in order to make it fit on the page. Copy fitting is a bit of an art, because once you edit the manuscript, you have to make sure that the central idea remains intact. Also at this time, TE production occurs. The TE is the teacher's edition. So once these first pages of student edition text are poured, they go to the writers to begin writing the TE components. Then the whole process begins again with the teacher's edition. During the last 6 months before the shipment date, the final checks of the manuscripts occur. These are called second and third pages. The editors may enlist specialized copy editors to help them during this time. They have to make sure that no error goes unnoticed. During this time, the ancillaries, or products that enhance the basic instruction in the student edition, are also produced. These include workbooks, online assessment tools, transparencies, among others. These products go through the same process that the textbook took. So writers and editors are back at the starting gate and writing manuscript and delivering content to the production group. For more information about these final 6 months, please visit our website. Although a Basel textbook project may seem challenging and difficult at times, when it has been completed, there's definitely a sense of accomplishment. For more information regarding educational publishing, please visit us at our website.
This e-lecture is made possible by Upgrade Education. Visit www.upgradeeducation.com for more free resources corresponding to this e-lecture. If you'd like to submit a question or a topic, please email us at editorialu@upgradeeducation.com. Thanks for attending Editorial U. Visit soon for more e-lecture releases.